So anyway, we're talking about the missiles and drones
CNN
of Iran. And I've always said that like America couldn't produce its way out of a paper bag, man. It can't produce shit. Okay, America is so bad at producing even the material needs for their American imperial machine. The trillions of dollars that we spend on our military, uh, we are still unable to produce things even as fast as like Iran does, and Iran has been sanctioned to shit, let alone like China or something, right? So this video is going to kind of go into that sort of material reality. We're going to look into this shortage that America has for its missile interceptors. I was pretty sure that we used up a lot of them whenever this thing went on for 4 weeks, because I remembered from the 12-day war we used like 20% or something crazy. And so like I was like, okay, if this has been going on for 4 weeks, like yeah, we've used up a lot of them. So we're gonna figure out in this video exactly how many missile interceptors we use to defend the one true ally, Israel. How many missile interceptors we are no longer going to have to protect us if anybody, I don't know, if Canada or Mexico for some reason decide they wanted to invade. Yeah, we'll see. But as we all know, those missile interceptors, we must protect Israel. They matter so much more than we do. Okay, people, why save those missiles to protect us when instead you could protect Israel? That's what I always say. So let's see what CNN has to say.
CNN has learned that the U.S. military has significantly depleted its stockpile of key missiles during the war with Iran. And according to experts, this reduction is so severe it has created a near-term risk of the U.S. running out of ammunition should a future conflict arise in the next few years. CNN's Natasha Bertrand is with us now with her.
How about a conflict in the next like few days? I'm concerned that we're about to get into another hot war. Pretty soon here, with Iran in particular. But and didn't Trump say he wanted to go after Cuba next? Okay. Uh, Probably should have done that before Iran, if I had to guess. Just saying. Just like not that I want this to happen to any country, but like if you were going to be making these decisions, you probably should have done Cuba first. That would probably have been a better strat.
Her reporting on this. It's some new reporting here. Natasha, walk us through what you've learned.
Yeah, Brianna. So according to this new study by the Center for Strategic and International Studies, which was their findings were confirmed by three sources familiar with recent Pentagon assessments of U.S. stockpiles, the U.S. is running dangerously low on some of these key munitions that would be required to confront a near-peer adversary in the short term, like China, for example. So while the U.S. does still have sufficient munitions to continue bombing Iran, for example, if the shaky ceasefire were to fall apart, if they were to need to confront an adversary like China.
Well, they're saying this as if like that wouldn't like it wouldn't have been a complete disaster anyway. Like we went through like I don't know, I think it was like they said like 50% or something of let's just say around 50% of their interceptors like and or of their strike missiles and THAAD missiles, uh yeah, which are designed to intercept ballistic missiles. Okay. And nearly 50% of its air defense interceptor missiles. So they got through all of that in about 4 weeks of conflict with Iran. If America actually tried to protect Taiwan, and like first of all, we're not going to try to protect Taiwan as much as we try to protect Israel, right? Like Israel is, the like I don't know, the only country that matters, the only ally that matters to America. So if push comes to shove, we're going to protect Israel over or Taiwan. Sorry, did I say Thailand? I might have said sorry. I meant Taiwan. So if China decided to attack Taiwan, we would go through that like again in like 4 weeks. Like the rest of them in like another 4 weeks, and then they would all be gone and we wouldn't be able to produce anymore because America can't produce shit. We produce like 10 missiles a year or something absurd, like and we're going through like thousands in a year. Like it's game over. China just can outproduce us on anything. It's like, I don't know. It's not even a question at this point that America would not be able to do that. So I don't know. This all seems like almost like, why even talk about it as like a possibility of America like going into a war with China? That would be insane.
China or like Russia, for example, then that could pose significant.
We are insane. So, I mean, I'm not saying there's not a real possibility that it happens, but it would be incredibly stupid.
Problems for the United States. Now, just to give you an example of how much the U.S. stockpile has been depleted over the last 7+ weeks of war on Iran, according to this assessment and the sources that we spoke to, the U.S. military has expended at least 45% of its stockpile of precision strike missiles, at least half of its inventory of THAAD missiles, which are designed to intercept ballistic missiles, and nearly 50% of its stockpile of Patriot air defense interceptor missiles, which are, of course, very key air defense munitions. Now, the U.S. military has also expended approximately 30% of its Tomahawk missiles stockpile, which are those long-range munitions that are really key to attacking targets further away.
Are basically all of our missiles like that's crazy. That's like 40% of like all of our missiles are just gone. And those some of those ones are offensive weapons too, I think. Like the precision strike missiles I think are offensive. And so it's like if we even did this for another 4 weeks or a hot war for another, or like I don't remember, was it 5 weeks, 6 weeks, however much it was, for another like 6 weeks, we would not even be able to continue striking them. Like we would have to just be like, okay, we'll strike you again in a year after we produce 10 more missiles. We'll strike you 10 more times in a year. How about that? And then every year, we'll still be in perpetual war forever, but every year we'll just strike them with the 10 missiles that we produce.
More than 20% of its stockpile of long-range joint air-to-surface standoff missiles, and approximately 20% of its SM-3 and SM-6 missiles. Now, this is important because these munitions take a while to be replaced. And according to our sources and this analysis, it would take anywhere between 1 to 6 years to replace a lot of these munitions.
With everything with the Pentagon, when it comes to timing, triple it. It's going to take at least 18, 20 years to replace those. Yeah, like no doubt in my mind. Every estimate of time that the Pentagon gives you for how long it's going to take to do something, triple it. And honestly, that's like on the low end. Like it could be like 5-10 times longer. Like it is the most inefficient system that has ever existed. Our capitalist system is just so ungodly inefficient when it comes to producing even the weapons of war that it needs to like maintain itself. It's like, it's absurd. It's absurd how inefficient it is.
Munitions. And so this is a really big problem that we should note that the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, General Dan Kane, he actually warned about as the administration was preparing to potentially go to war with Iran. He was raising concerns, we're told, about this issue of depleted stockpiles around the world, particularly ones that could be very useful to U.S. allies like Israel and Ukraine. So the Pentagon is preparing to ask for a supplemental from Congress for additional funding to try to replace these munitions, but it could still take quite some time before those are actually back in U.S. stockpiles, Brianna.
Yeah, at least I'd say at least 18 years. It'll take at least 18 years. And whatever they ask for, if they say it's going to take 100 billion to replenish them 10 times. The cost is always 10 times more. So it would probably be more like $1 trillion to replace them, because you have to understand there's people that need to be making money. Like we got a bunch of pedo billionaires in our country, and they are not happy unless they are skimming off tens of millions of dollars off of every contract that is given to them. So yeah, like, you know, how else are you going to funnel all of my tax dollars straight into the pedo billionaire elites, right? Like into their pockets. This is one of the most, like, they're inefficient at actually producing anything, but they are very efficient of taking all of our tax dollars and funneling them up into the billionaire, like, contractor owners, into their pockets, man. They really are good at, because they just skim so much of that off the top.
All right. Thank you, Natasha, for the reporting. Boris?
Joining us now to discuss this and more regarding the war with Iran is retired Army Major Harrison Mann. He's a former Defense Intelligence Agency official, also the Associate Campaigns Director for Win Without War. Major, thanks so much for being with us. When you hear that report, how much do these shortages concern you?
They concern me, and for more reasons just than running out of ammo fighting Iran. Part of this is a math problem that we knew the answer for before this war started, right? We knew what our stockpiles were, and I used to work with the folks at the Defense Intelligence Agency who used to do their best to count how many missiles and drones Iran had. And so, like, there's really two things that I want to draw out of here. One is that the folks, politicians and experts who were advocating for war with Iran, they were just kind of detached from reality. We've run out of up to 50% of strategic defensive interceptors a month into a war with a regional power, right? This is Iran. And from that, we also got to kind of extrapolate folks who are advocating for war with China. That is a global power. The fact that we are totally unprepared for these conflicts.
I mean, it's just over, dude. It's over. It's over. There's no way that America could militarily protect Taiwan, for instance. There's no way that America could militarily compete with China. And in a foreign war against China, there's literally no way. I think America could defend itself from an invasion from China, but there's literally no way that it could ever like compete in a war with China. It's over. The American post World War II order with America as the only global hegemon, it's gone. It's gone. Everybody wave bye-bye. Hopefully China won't be as brutal and barbaric as we were. Like, that's all I hope. Or seriously. I mean, I have a lot more faith in China considering their track record of, like, I don't even think they've been in a foreign war in like over 100 years, if not more. I don't even know if they've really been at war, like, except for, I guess, well, World War II, I guess. But yeah, I don't know. It's but like an actual like offensive war, like a war in another country, I can't even remember the last time China was in one of those.
Not an argument for us to gear up for war, but it should make us a little more introspective when we have people saying it's going to be a slam dunk and we really need to fight these wars. The other thing I want to pull out of this, I think, you could be watching this report about us running out of all these critical munitions and say, well, wait a minute, don't we have the most powerful military in the world? Don't we have the biggest military in the world? We just spent nearly $1 trillion on the Pentagon last year. Why don't we have enough ammo? And I think it's important for folks to understand, especially as we move into talking about supplemental funding or a new defense funding bill, that these hundreds of billions of dollars that Congress gives the president for war largely do not go into things that we would say we need for war. The reason that we don't have enough air defense interceptors is because instead we've been spending that money on like these big projects that are kind of designed.
Okay, I did look it up, and I guess there was the Sino-Vietnamese War, which I was not aware of, to be honest. So maybe they did a war on Vietnam. I'm really not that sure about that one though. So there you go. Anyway, sorry, I missed some of what he was saying. I'm going back.
The reason that we don't have enough air defense interceptors is because instead we've been spending that money on like these big projects that are kind of designed to be expensive.
Yeah. Designed to funnel all of everybody's tax dollars into the pockets of pedo billionaires. That's what he means.
I hate to describe it this way, but a lot of this $900 billion budget, and that's what Congress passed last year, nearly every Republican and over 50% of Democrats too, kind of becomes a slush fund for defense contractors.
Yep.
Raytheon, Lockheed, and instead of producing the defensive capabilities that you say we might need, instead of doing things like paying to get black mold out of the soldiers' barracks, instead of going towards getting better bomb shelters for the hundreds of U.S. troops who've been wounded in this war, we're building big vanity projects like the F-35 stealth fighter, which we learned pretty early on in this.
Rip. That whole project cost like $1 trillion, dude. And like Iran's like air defenses, which are like better than they used to be, but I always say they're like made of like like sticks and bubble gum. Because they're like nowhere near like the air defense systems that like we have and stuff, but was able to clip like two F-35s, which was supposed to be the pride and joy of the American military for the next like decades. Like man, I never could have possibly thought that the American empire would fail so spectacularly. This is like insane.
Big vanity projects like the F-35 stealth fighter, which we learned pretty early on in this war is not that stealthy. Iran caught it on camera and shot at it, or like Ford-class aircraft carriers that the toilets don't work on. And so I think it's really important to understand, if you see these numbers and are shocked or worried by them, more money is not the answer. More judicious spending is.
There's also an aspect to this, specifically when it comes to Iran, and I'll get to.
Well, the problem is that, again, it's a problem of capitalism. That's one thing that they never really talk about here, is like the capitalist system is incapable of producing these things in a way that like is beneficial to the country of America. Like there's a reason that like during the world wars, like we or like World War II, like we nationalized all of our like companies and had the government set quotas of how much their people are going to produce of these particular things every single month. Like we socialized it all because it was necessary to be able to actually compete, right? To be able to produce things at a more efficient manner. The reason that we don't do that is because it's incredibly beneficial to our capitalist pedo billionaire overlords. Like that's why we keep it as a capitalist system. If we want to actually compete with China, then we have to go to the China model of state capitalism, at the very least, for if we're talking like compete with them industrially. Like we would have to go to that model for those industries. And that's going to be a big no-no when it comes to the people who actually call the shots. Like, not, we live in a democracy, but the only people whose voices matter are like Raytheon and Lockheed Martin and stuff. Their voices matter a lot more than your voice matters, because they have more money, and the more money you have, the more voice you have in America. That's just the way it is.
The spending is.
There's also an aspect to this, specifically when it comes to Iran.
I'll
get to China in a moment, but financially it's asymmetrical, right? I've heard some experts describing the U.S. weaponry as a Ferrari out in the skies over Tehran, and the Iranians essentially shooting like a razor scooter at a Ferrari. It's way less expensive for them to take out the U.S. and Israel's equipment than the inverse. How does the U.S. make that more efficient? Does it need to adjust toward a more Ukrainian-like model?
So this is another reflection of our misguided priorities, I would say. Drone proliferation in the Middle East has been a threat for at least a decade. We saw them popping up in the Syrian civil war, and Iran has been a leader in this field. As you mentioned, Ukrainians, out of necessity, figured out much cheaper ways to deal with this threat. Why haven't we invested in them? Again, these are because of decisions that Congress and successive military leadership made. And it's really unfortunate, because how did the first U.S. troops die in this conflict? It was a drone strike.
Yeah. I did want to get your thoughts on China, because this morning President Trump said the U.S. intercepted a ship that had, quote, a gift from China. This is notable because as the president is saying that he was sort of surprised by this, we talked about last week the letters exchanged between he and President Xi of China, in which Xi effectively promised Trump that that China would not be supplying ammunition to Tehran. Do you think a shipment of arms from China could have gotten sent to Iran without Xi knowing, without Beijing being aware of what was being transported to Iran?
I don't think that would be possible, but we also have to note that the accusation here is a dual-use system.
I see.
So that could be electronics. It doesn't necessarily mean they sent them.
I mean, I don't know if China would have I don't know if China would be that willing to go against America and send actual arms to Iran, because that would be much more directly involved. But I do know that like Iran has a lot of production capabilities in-house. Like they have entire missile production production facilities built inside of mountains. Like, so really, I think what they would prefer, or like what China would prefer to do, is just send the parts, like send them the parts that they need to be able to produce the missiles and drones themselves. Because that's, they do produce all of it, or as far as I know, they produce all of their missiles and drones in house. So they don't necessarily need, like, they would need not only missiles being sent to them, but also like missile launchers and stuff, I would guess, if they were going to get just stuff shipped to them directly from China. But maybe I'm wrong on that, though. Maybe they already have some Chinese missiles, or like they have like the capabilities of shooting those. I don't really know for sure. But yeah.
Missiles. A lot of Iran's missiles and drones do depend on electronics, circuit board stuff that they can't manufacture domestically. So this could have been something routine, or it could have been China testing the waters and trying to keep the Iranian war effort going. It's hard to be sure right now.
Yeah. Well, there you go, people. That was a pretty good one. We got to learn a lot about our, trillion-dollar military industrial complex that can barely produce 10 missiles a year. Like, way to go, us. Capitalism is definitely the most efficient system, guys. If we just keep saying it, it'll be true.